the dominant mode of thinking that drives our behavior is actually more like these guys than like the humans that we imagine ourselves to be. The framework, which is an analogy, it's not anatomy. If you're familiar with behavioral economics, you might have heard of system 1 and system 2. If not, it doesn't matter. I use these analogies of system 1 being like an alligator. This is our primal system driving thoughts and behavior. It's unconscious, intuitive, automatic, and any behavior through practice becomes habitual and essentially mindless. This is where our emotions are housed and visual processing. This system is so much more powerful than the other system, system 2, which is like a judge. And this is conscious, slow, deliberative, effortful. You could think of it like a human judge carefully weighing evidence pro and con to come to a rational decision. But like a human judge, it's also biased largely by the gator. In Yuval Noah Harari's talk just now, he's talking about feelings and intelligence. And you could think of these two systems as being related to those, with the gator more related to feelings and the judge more related to intelligence. How this ties to influence is that although we are humans driven primarily by the gator, we act like when we're trying to influence someone, they're more of an artificial intelligence, and we should be able to give input of arguments, data, facts, and information. But that's too early if we're jumping there before we've gotten the attention of this primal system, the gator. Would you like to feel the gator and the judge in your own mind? Get to experience this? It's a little abstract. So let me give you an opportunity. Please, if you're willing, speak these words out loud, even if you're watching online, if you can. Ready? Go. Okay, great, you can read. Now, similar, but just say the color. Go. You did remarkably well. But what you just learned, besides that your gator brain can read, is that the gator is the first responder. That's always true. Your immediate snap judgments are in the gator domain. And the judge part is the second guesser only sometimes, if you have the bandwidth and if it's necessary. This is a key to influencing people. First, to connect with the gator. Second, only if they're interested and it's necessary to give them the information that might persuade the judge. Some people think, well, I'm more of a numbers person. Maybe other people are gatory. I'm kind of analytical. And I believe that you're analytical, and yet consider this. Actual judges. When researchers studied 1,100 parole decisions, they looked at the time of day and saw that at the beginning of the day, about 2/3 of prisoners were being let out on parole, and that number declined and declined to essentially zero. There's a spike, another decline, second spike, another decline. Think about, predict, what might be the reason for the spikes. And I heard some people saying food breaks. Yes, that's all it is. Even judges are ruled primarily by their gator decisions. And one of the key features of the gator is that it does what's easy. And in this case, if there's a criminal, they've done something wrong, send them back to jail. That's the easy choice. And the moral of that study is that everyone, even judges, are more gator than judge. Now, I want to focus on how important it is that gators are the laziest animals on earth. They can be because they're so incredibly freaking efficient. They've had 38 million years of evolution to become so efficient. They can have a body that weighs 500 kilos, brain the size of a walnut. And if you guess how long they can go without eating, I am sure that you have underestimated, because it's 3 years. The dominant response to all of the threats and opportunities that they perceive in the world is nothing. And if you predicted that that would be the response to your influence attempts, you would probably be right. Consider, even in a domain as important as life and death, organ donations, people tend to have strong opinions about whether they want to be an organ donor. And yet, when researchers looked at countries in Europe with opt-in policies, where nobody's an organ donor, but you can essentially check a box to opt in, versus countries with opt-out policies, where it's the opposite, it's incredibly easy to check a box, but what's the only thing easier than checking a box? Not checking a box, which is what almost everybody does. The core principle of influencing behavior is ease. And if you think about companies that have disrupted not just their competitors, but their entire industry, my theory is that almost all of them have been innovating on this dimension of ease. Like Amazon would be a prime example. Almost anything that you can think of that Amazon has done makes it easier for us to do business with them, so much that for many of us, it's harder to not do business with Amazon than to do business with Amazon. There's Prime, quick shipping, quick returns, one-click shopping, right? Subscribe and save. There's, if you have as little care for your privacy as I do apparently, you can buy an Alexa and just speak your desires into your house, so there's not even one click. Makes it as easy as possible for us to do business. If you've been single in the last decade or so, I'm guessing that you've probably used a swipe app, like Tinder being the first one, where if you think about online dating, yeah, theoretically it's easier than offline dating, but it feels kind of onerous, and you're making all these trade-offs about things like, how far away does this person live from you? What kinds of activities do they like? Do they want something serious, something long-term? Do they have kids? Do they not? Smoke, drink, not? It's hard, right? And it's much easier to just let your Gator brain be like, yep, no, right? It couldn't be easier to get a date, except if you're an engineer, you could make it a teeny bit easier. For inspiration, not that you need to use this metric, but for inspiration, I want to mention this metric called the customer effort score that is the most underappreciated marketing metric. It is more predictive of spending and loyalty than customer satisfaction and net promoter score, which is essentially word of mouth. Not important if you're not in marketing to know what that means. Customer effort score is essentially one question. And it's just the question, how much effort did it take for you to do that thing that you wanted to do? Customer effort score predicts with almost 100% accuracy who is going to repurchase and who is not. It's almost the only thing determining who gives negative word of mouth and who doesn't. You probably know that word of mouth is more powerful, more influential than marketing and advertising. And you might not have thought about it, but negative word of mouth is more influential than positive word of mouth. So this is one of the most important outcomes in business, driven almost entirely by this question of how much effort did it take. And although effort matters for predicting behavior, it's actually the perception of behavior that matters most. And that's what the customer effort score is measuring. By the way, the Barbie examples, it wasn't rocket science. It turned out kids were just doing what's easy. It's easier to have a wedding without all of the stuff. And if you've ever played with Barbie, you know once you get her clothes off, they're never going back on. It's just too difficult. To give you an example of what an alligator influence attempt can look like and how we can tie in ease, I want to share one of my favorite marketing campaigns. And it's not that you need to do something like this, but to take inspiration from the idea the gator comes before the judge, and look at how they also made it easy. Isn't that so cool? They reached out in a moment of truth when people would be most in desire of a beach vacation, and they made it as easy as possible in that moment for them to take action on that next baby step, which in this case was going to the website and putting their name on the list so that they could get discounts and buy a beach vacation later. Because Gators make snap judgments and are so freaking lazy, when you want to influence someone, think about how can you make it easier for them to take that next baby step, if possible, in that moment. When you think about predicting the future and all of the big ideas that are flying around in your head, when you take a step back, you can acknowledge that as you're predicting the future, you can be creating the future. And the way we create the future is baby step by baby step. The Gator version of making it easy is this: what people tell you they want might be complicated and beautiful, but what they actually do almost always is follow the path of least resistance.